We will be posting up on our YouTube channel for everyone. And as soon as we're done with this, and if any editing is required, it will be done. I will let you know when we're not recording so that if you have something you want to discuss that you don't want the rest of the world to know about for eternity, you can wait until that period. But thank you all for attending. And I'm going back to sharing the screen right now, and I'm going to go back up again because for the recording, this is the Family Reading Program, a facilitated learning circle for early literacy, a guide to virtual programming. And I'm going to say salute and hello to everyone this morning. And this is a facilitated learning circle zone. This is a collaboration of your experiences. Okay, the rules for participating: please be respectful, don't speak over one another, switch off all distractions, dogs and cats and small children excluded, and don't multitask during the learning circle, please. Okay, today our objectives are vocabulary and narrative skills, and the executive functions of self-directed, engaged learning, and goal setting. We're going to be discussing the best practices for virtual story times, sharing of early literacy and mind in the making skills in virtual story times, and have various discussion time points throughout the presentation. And this is the 5th and final session of this program. And thank you all for participating in it. Today is Thursday, December 17th, 2020. And let's begin by talking about vocabulary and narrative skills. Okay, vocabulary skills is one of the early literacy skills that researchers says is important for children to have in order to learn to read. The more vocabulary children have, the easier it will be for them to understand what they are reading. Vocabulary is knowing the names of things, feelings, concepts, and ideas. And to the people out there, to the participants today, I want you to keep that last part in mind when dealing with vocabulary in your early literacy skill training, because knowing the name of things, feelings, and concepts and ideas help children communicate better when they're running into problems or obstacles and they don't know how to express themselves. If we work on giving them the tools to express themselves, this will help speed up the early literacy process when they get into school and start learning. When they know how to communicate these concepts, things, feelings, and ideas, they will do better at school. And that is something to remind the parents gently of in your story time. Okay, and now we're also going to talk about narrative skills, which is the expressive language, including being able to describe things, to tell events in order, and to retell stories. Now, I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a moment to talk to you all. Okay, one of the things that these two skills have in common is they're very hard to do in a virtual story time setting. In both of these skills requires feedback from the children to the storyteller. And when you're not in a situation when you're in a virtual programming, unless you're doing a Zoom virtual programming, to get that kind of feedback is next to impossible. And this is why these two skills will probably present the biggest challenge to you in your story times. Now, as I discussed previously in the earlier session, I did a little bit of research on how you might be able to do this. So let's talk about vocabulary skills. The best way to teach vocabulary skills, from what I've seen and from what I've researched, is to have either a person in the story time with you to bounce these things off of or demonstrate vocabulary skills, or a puppet, a hand puppet, or a puppet to do the same thing. If you have somebody modeling this behavior to the parents and children out there, it will be easier to do this in a recorded virtual program. Now, the other thing is, when you do this, is to be sure that you give an idea to the parents on how to expand these skills in their everyday life and interactions with the children. One of the ways that you can do that, that parents can do this, that you can get them to do that, is by challenging the children to come up with more than one name for an object or an idea or any of those. It's like, keep expanding the vocabulary. The best way to do this, of course, is having the parents read to the children in the books and question them as they go along, and not passively sitting there as they're reading, as the parent is reading to them. The parent has to become more interactive, engaged, and by having a puppet or a person there, you can show that modeling behavior. And you don't have to say modeling behavior to the parents. You just have to say, parent, I'm going to show you how to talk, or parents, pay attention to what I'm doing with my minion here, or with my puppet named Rocky Raccoon, or whatever else it is that you may do. The other thing that you can do is you can maybe put up words that you're going to hit in your story times, your keywords that you're going to be hitting into the story times on a blackboard behind you, or a felt board. Have the words and a couple of extra words thrown in there. And during the story time, substitute the words so that you can help build a vocabulary virtually. So I'm going to open this part up to you guys. I'm going to, I'm going to go to my ace in the hole, Jess. Jess, do you have any ways that you do this?
I think by sending home, maybe just because I would always at story time teach new songs, of course, and all that, and have it posted behind me. So I'm thinking that would be a way to do it. Just simple rhymes and that type of thing would be a way that I might encourage it, and then send it home in the activity packet that I provide. The things to do with the child. That's what I was thinking.
That's what you're thinking? That's good.
And I also...
Oh, go ahead, please.
I also had this other idea about describing things, because I would often use a discovery box. So I was thinking I could do it online. So Joe could blindfold me and I could have things in a box that I could describe. And he might even throw something in there that I don't know about. And then I was thinking, by me describing, then the kids could see what they are at home. And then that would be part of their activity to do at home, is to make a discovery box or have their mom do it. And then they could describe what things are in the discovery box.
Wow. I didn't think of that one. That's good. I like that.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I'm going to try after the first of the year. So we'll see how it works and see what Joe comes up with for me to feel. I told him no live worms.
Yes, and do remember that summer reading is coming up, and that they do have a book list and things like that in your manuals and programming, and try to keep all the skills that we've talked about over the last 5 sessions in your mind, and how to introduce them into your story times. Jennifer, do you have anything to add that you might try, or experiences you might have had with this? Oh, that's a great idea, Jess. Oh, I see that.
I don't. I haven't done any of this yet. I'm still a library aide, so I'm usually here with Samantha Brown. We were going to collaborate, but her internet's down this week at her home. So I'm just getting ideas. Basically.
No, that's good. Well, that's the reason for this, is to give you ideas, and maybe I'm glad you're going to be talking to her, and maybe you could discuss some of these things with her. And even if she could, she can always go to our YouTube channel and watch some of the sessions that we've had on these skills.
Yeah, she was asking me to get the link where this is going to be posted, so she can watch it next week after Spectrum comes. Yeah, it's going to take
more than a week, but okay.
Yeah, I know, exactly. She lives in Fernley, so it's possible.
Yeah. How about you, Jasmine? Is any of this giving you an idea?
I really like the discovery box idea. I think I'm going to use that. And then, I don't know, I'm just not good with puppets. Like, I just feel weird doing it. Like, I've tried.
No, it is a skill.
But maybe modeling it with Jamie with story time somehow, trying to figure out how we can both get in the story time together, because we can't right now, because we don't like to wear a mask during story time, so we go home.
Yeah,
A way for both of us to be together. So maybe I will have to do puppets. But yeah, I really like the discovery box idea.
Yeah. Maybe technology-wise, are you doing Facebook, Zoom, or YouTube? Are you just recording them?
Sorry, I feel weird not seeing you. We do Facebook Live for all of our story times. So we can have the parents comment the kids' names, and then we can talk to the kids and interact.
Right. Well, maybe that interaction will, if you might not have to actually do it with a puppet.
It's just really delayed. Like, you're like, oh, what's your favorite color? And then like 5 minutes later, it pops up that their favorite color is blue. And you're like, okay, that's irrelevant now, because now we're doing something else. But just, I feel like them watching that and hearing their name is just really important, whether I get the response or not. They feel like I'm talking to them.
If you feel weird talking to a puppet, maybe more of a, if you get maybe like a doll instead and talk to that, so you don't have to worry about manipulating your hand to answer back and things like that, and just just talk to it like you would talk to a sleeping child, maybe. Like, oh yes.
At this point, I'm down to try anything. So
yeah, I mean, you got to find what works for you, and that's the important part.
Because if you're uncomfortable with it, the kids can definitely tell.
Right. Believe me, I've been uncomfortable numerous times trying to explain things on Zoom and demonstrate things on Zoom. So I get that, and that's pretty cool. That's just experiment around and let us all know what you come up with, because
I will.
We can't get into your Facebook sometimes to see your story times, I think, okay, I'm going to do it again. Lisa or Lisa?
Lisa. It's Lisa.
Lisa. Sorry.
Okay.
I am too Southern. I cannot help
It's my mom's fault.
Yeah. But,
I don't really do a lot of what was suggested, because I just never really thought to do stuff like that for virtual story time. I do a lot of that stuff in my story time when we have it face to face. But now, like, if I'm reading a book and it says something like maybe Freddie is a furry feline, I'll stop and I'll look at the camera and say that means he is a hairy cat. I just explain what some of the words mean if I think the toddlers won't really understand.
Right.
That's about it so far.
And as Sarah's going to explain to you guys, because she has a lot more of the science on these things, babies are learning the minute they are out in the world, and their brains are developing rapidly. So, one of the things that you could suggest, I think, to the parents out there is don't dumb it down too much. Don't be afraid to, instead of saying cat, have them say a cat is also a feline, or what other cats are there out there? There's lions, there's tigers, there's house cats. Tell them that they can expand the vocabulary instantly. It's not something that children will be confused by, because they're listening to every sound, every syllable, and how it all strings together. And the quicker you introduce more vocabulary, telling this to the parents, the quicker you introduce more vocabulary, the better, faster development they'll have in their literacy skills. And that's one of the things I think for all the literacy skills out there is trying to explain to parents that they can go hog wild on it to the point, but not too far. But don't be afraid to add more to the story than what they're reading to the child or what you're reading. And you can do that in your story times as well. And I think that's a pretty good deal to help with these literacy skills, especially since COVID has dragged everything, the learning process down. Robin, do you have anything to add to any of this?
I'm like Lisa. We pre-record our story times, and so they're not live. They get posted on a closed group on Facebook. So that's obviously a little different. But one thing I found myself doing, which is kind of what Lisa just mentioned, is at least once in a book I normally come across an obscure word, and I generally try and ask the imaginary audience if they know what that word means, and kind of have an imaginary conversation about other synonyms for the word. So it's not something I would do on every page, but often a book will have at least one obscure word in it that's kind of fun to touch on. As for puppets, I normally don't have enough hands to work a puppet and a book, but I really enjoy puppets, but I have no clue how to voice them or something like that, like a ventriloquist. That would just be insane. So sometimes you get puppets with built-in squeakers,
right?
Things like monkeys and so on, and those can be a lot of fun, and kids really like that, and it's really user-friendly because it sounds and looks effective, but as the storyteller, you almost have to do nothing to kind of bring a character to the puppet.
Yeah. And that's a good point. You do have to read the book, hold the book, turn the page, and operating a puppet at the same time. No, I don't see that either. But one of the good things that you did mention is that there's going to be an obscured word in there, and you can reverse the vocabulary skill. When you get a complex word, you can dumb it down. You can break it down for them into a smaller word that they may understand. And that might help the child make the connection that this word means the bigger word. You know, a smaller word can mean a bigger word, and a bigger word can mean a smaller word. And I really like that observation you made. Okay, we're gonna talk about the other one that kills us is narrative skills. In virtual programming, that really requires feedback from somebody. And you can use the puppet method or having another person in the story time with you so that they can help model that behavior, or an inanimate object perhaps. I'm not really sure, but this is a very difficult skill to do virtually because you need to hear from the child, and you need to give it the proper amount of time in between your questions to the child to help them with this, be able to talk to describe what has happened. And there have been a couple of ideas out there. One of them is that in the packets, they let they send out a open-ended where, okay, let me see, in the packets, they have a story that doesn't have an ending. And what you do is when you give the packet to the child, say, what is the ending you have here? Tell your parent, and your parent can add it onto our, send an email or onto our message board to give the ending of what the child thought it ended, or even record the ending. In your books, you don't have to go to the happily ever after ending. You can get to the next to the last page where the story is coming to the end point, and you just stop and say, I want you to tell your parents what you think happened at the end of this story. And, and leave it at that. Sometimes I think that's preferable to get these narratives, to be able to get these narrative skills for these children, for the children to start learning how to communicate with people around them. And it's also one of those things that, as Sarah's going to tell you in her presentation coming up, that this is a good executive functioning skills, part of the executive functioning skills that all children possess. They all want to tell the story. They all want to tell you what happened. It's learning how to tell it in a coherent, sequential method that people can need to learn how to do. And there's a lot of other skills in that, but she's going to talk to you guys about that stuff upcoming. Really, this is a difficult one, and it's one that you have to encourage parents. And some of the packets that you guys, if you're giving out packets, you know, if you give out puzzles and things like that, that's in a way for them to learn how to learn sequence, how to learn how to tell a story. Because when you're, you know, when you put a game or a puzzle in, you ask the child, what are the rules? And then the child's going to tell you the rules. And that's a good way to do this kind of technique, you know, of developing narrative skills. And a lot of open-ended questions in your story times. What would you do? I want you to think about that and and count in your head 10 to 10 or back from 10, so that you give them a moment to really think about that, you know, and give a parent a chance to say, yeah, Tommy, what do you think you will do about that? So those are kinds of things that you can possibly do in promoting these skills. Is just be aware that, you know, these are the two most difficult ones for you to do. So I'm going to open it up. Does anybody else have any ideas of how to possibly develop narrative skills virtually? Well, okay. We're going to do the 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because that was a narrative skill for you. I'm asking you all to describe what did you do. So use that process right there to understand how a child might view it or a parent might view it, is when you're not sure of what you should be communicating or things like that, or how these skills work. Okay, and I'm going to go back to sharing the screen, and we're going to go and hear from Sarah. But first,
unmuting myself.
Sure.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, and this is this part of this is going to be self-directed engaged learning and goal setting, and this comes from the wonderful book Mind in the Making. Soon to be a major motion picture, right, Sarah?
You know, what I actually learned recently is that it's soon to be a part 2. Ellen Galinsky is writing a new book that will take Mind in the Making beyond the first 8 years into adolescence and the teen years. So that just came on my radar the other day, and I'm excited to know more about it, but that's about all I know right now.
Mm-hmm.
So today, I'm going to start with the same slide that I always show you to reiterate those executive function skills that are kind of behind Mind in the Making. As Bruce was calling out, everything that you're doing in these story times is exercising our executive function skills. Your own executive function skills, executive function skills of the parents that are involved, and the children too. And those things are happening all the time. And as Bruce said, children are born with some of these skills already in place, or the foundations of these skills are already in place, in the way that a baby that's just a brand newborn baby that's still in the hospital is able to shut out excessive noise and other distractions in order to sleep, and is practicing these executive function skills, firing up the prefrontal cortex of the brain right from birth. So part of what Mind in the Making really asks us to consider is how to build skills in children by exercising those executive functions, like intentionally promoting opportunities that allow us to exercise those executive functions, and then also promoting the bonding and interactions between adults and children, and then providing some skill building opportunities or autonomy support. So all of those things are already happening, right? We've talked about them in the framework of all of these 7 essential skills. The last one that we're talking about today is self-directed engaged learning, which is kind of the pinnacle of all of these other skills, using and leveraging those skills that came before. So we talk a lot about these skills that you're already promoting them in your story times, again, just by hosting them. Self-directed engaged learning is going to be really closely aligned with what your I think some of the things that you're talking about specifically with narrative skills and vocabulary skills, calling on all of these other essential skills in order to make those things happen. We can go to the next slide. Self-directed engaged learning is really how we realize our ultimate learning potential. So the world keeps changing around us, and we can keep going too, as long as we're still learning from the world around us, right? So again, the kind of fundamental question that was behind Mind in the Making is children are born ready to learn, and they're excited about it, and they're working really hard to make sure that they have the opportunity to learn and to engage the adults around them and helping them learn. But often by the time children are in school, that bright fire for learning is a little dimmer. So how can we keep that going? What are the things that we can do to make learning continue to be interesting and exciting, and help kids really get to the place where they are self-directed and they are engaged throughout their lives? Let's go to the next slide. These principles are kind of behind self-directed engaged learning, and I wanted to call out some of them just because I can see that I can see these things happening in the stuff that you're talking about, right? So even these kind of first 3 points here, I think are what you're doing in your story times, right? You're having children come and sit down, and the goal being, let's hear this story, let's be together, maybe we're going to do a song or some other activities, we're going to have some time that's focused on reading and learning, we're socially, emotionally, and intellectually engaged, and we're building these relationships with children, not just between the staff and the families, but between the parent and the child, right? So then when you talk about building vocabulary skills, I think you're really elaborating and extending the children's learning from the book, right? When you talk about narrative skills, you're helping children practice and synthesize and share what they've learned. And all through that, children are becoming increasingly accountable just by participating and being asked and being promoted and nudged in these directions. And there you have a community of learners, which of course is what you have in your storytime groups naturally. So I think there's just a lot of great things that you guys are talking about when you're talking about building the skills and building the literacy skills into your program. Obviously, you are, by practicing these narrative skills and those vocabulary skills, you're also doing all of the other skill building stuff that I've been talking to you about. And we've talked a lot about the ways that you see on the screen to incorporate more skill building into your program. So there's obviously like singing and playing music, which some of you do, and using puppets and dolls or props, playing circle time games, which I know you tend to do in some of your in-person story times, but even calling out these things and reminding families of what you might be doing when you're together and why you do them and how they're promoting maybe critical thinking, or maybe they're promoting taking on challenges or getting to that point where you're doing self-directed engaged learning. I understand you may not be able to fit the 7 essential skills into the context of your story times, but I think there are times when you can really call out what you're doing. Like, when we're using expressive language by reading this story, and you're using expressive language with your child while you're reacting to the story or retelling the story after we're done, you are building those narrative skills, and you are building your child to be a lifelong learner, right? So there's ways that you can kind of call out that you're doing that. I've also talked before about how many children's books are already designed to teach a lesson about essential skills. Using those books, that you can see all the additional materials and the books on teachingbooks.net, as you're planning your story times. You can also use those children's books as an add-on resource, as a way to introduce the 7 essential skills if you want to do that. The book lists and the corresponding tip sheets are really easy to download, and you're free to use them any way you like. There's some other resources. There are some circle time games from Mind in the Making will show you that you can incorporate too. And again, these are circle time games, are things that parents can do outside of circle time. You don't need to be in circle time to do Simon Says, right? Simon Says is a great skill builder. That's why we do it. I can point you to lots of other resources out there too if you're looking for something specific for your programs. We've seen, as a national partner in the movement, we've seen countless ways to incorporate skill building into lots of different programs. And there actually is a series, Mind in the Making trainer series, designed specifically for librarians, libraries. So that's something to maybe consider in the future. I'm going to go to the next slide. A big part, as I've explained, Mind in the Making is not just a book. It's also a series of professional development learning modules, and also learning modules that could be delivered to parents in certain settings. I don't expect that to be what you're looking for here, but a big element in those learning modules is goal setting. So we've talked about all 7 of the skills. We've touched on all 7 of the essential skills. The learning modules ask us to learn about those skills, understand those skills, and some of the research and developmental timelines behind those skills. And then really, in order to be engaged in the movement and think about how we're going to do this and really build skills in our programs or with our children and families, is a goal setting framework. So this is incorporated into every one of the learning modules. The idea is for participants to take what they've learned and think about how they want to incorporate it using this framework. So I'm not going to go through this. You can visit woopmylife.org if you want to practice this framework. It's useful. There's a lot of videos out there too that I'm not going to show you today, but they are also part of the Mind in the Making learning modules. This goal setting piece is a really big part of delivering the professional development parts of this. So let's go on to the next slide, and I'll just show you again. You've made an investment in this facilitated learning circle over the last many weeks, and I'm hoping that you see things not just with the literacy skills, but with the Mind in the Making skills that might be useful and that you might be able to incorporate. And I hope that you'll take a minute and think about how you want to do that, what your goal is, and just sort of call out some of these common goals that other people have when they complete one of the modules, or the way that they're thinking about taking it forward. So you obviously, I always talk about how easy it is to internalize the skills, right? Once you start spending time thinking about them, it's really hard, for me at least, to stop identifying my own executive functions and essential skills, and those are the people I work with or my family. It just seems to be everywhere as soon as I start thinking about it. So definitely internalizing it is something that all of us, I think, will do when we participate in the learning modules. Some of us will choose to share our insights with our colleagues or with the people around us, because again, after you start to internalize it, you might get excited about it like I do and start talking about it all the time, boring my spouse and my family. Some programs are looking for ways to embed building concepts into their programs. There's lots of ways to do this. So many ways to do this. And there are different ways of doing this all over the country. And there's a lot of freedom in the way that we can do this. So that is really exciting. Some people will want to just keep going and take those professional development modules and learn more about how to deliver this material to families or to other audiences. And, some people will want to be able to train others. So the Children's Cabinet, some of the other partners around the state are offering Train the Trainer Institutes, we call them. So for people who want to be able to offer the Mind in the Making modules to other people, we have a Train the Trainer series coming up in 2021. So that's kind of like the whole next level. So I think my next slide is probably the last slide. Again, teachingbooks.net has Mind in the Making skill building children's books listed, along with a bunch of different activities and resources that go along with those books. So it's a great tool for you to use either within your story time or to add on, or even just to share with other families or your colleagues. Vroom.org is a natural next step for families. You can promote Vroom, visit Vroom. You can see a lot of easy downloadable materials there. I can walk you through those things. I actually have a little recorded video that walks you through how to get some resources online. And I think you guys are savvy enough that you don't need my help navigating, but there's plenty of stuff that you can use free download and even customized there. Obviously, reading the book, Mind in the Making, or visiting the website, mindinthemaking.org, where you can see more of those skill building opportunities and other circle time games and other kind of resources and information around Mind in the Making. As I mentioned, the learning modules, each learning module is one skill. So the learning modules are happening online with a couple of different trainers, and because the Children's Cabinet primarily trainers are focused on early childhood educators, their free learning modules are posted at the Nevada Registry. So, and then if you do have interest in becoming a trainer, we have an institute coming up in February, and we're just talking this morning about scheduling a second one, likely in April. So those are opportunities. If you want to take it further, you can always reach out to me if you have some questions, or you want to learn more, or you want to engage in any of these trainings. And that's all I have for you.
Okay, thank you. As always, one of the parts I'd like to some suggestions I would like to add real quickly. One of the problems I had when I was doing, when I was composing children's story times was I wasn't adding mathematics into my story time. And I would like to encourage all of you to add, and it doesn't have to be every story time, but to keep in mind that we need math skills developing just along with speaking skills and storytelling skills and things like that. And to keep it in the back of your head when you're putting together a story time virtually. There are books that have, even books that aren't dedicated to math, there still can be some math things, because you can point to a picture and go, how many hats does he have? And you go 1, 2, 3. And what if I took away 2 of those hats? How many would be left? You know, just try to incorporate those skills in there, because it was never on my radar when I was doing children's story times until it was pointed out to me. You know, yeah, what Jess was saying in the chat is like measuring things. That can also be a part of it. And, you know, it's just like, just keep in mind that not only are we doing the language skills, we also need to have them understand the mathematical skills as well. You know, I'm not saying incredible long division or anything like that, but in Mind in the Making, they have a lot of organizing games and things like that. And it's very helpful. And I think it's something we should incorporate. Okay, I'm going to share my screen one more time, hopefully. And these are the things also I want you to think about, is how to apply all the early literacy skills and executive functions to your story times. Finding and sharing new ways to instruct families and staff in early literacy skills and executive functions. And this is the one part that I really hope you all do, as develop your people library. You're not 100% experts in everything, and having people you can call on to give their expertise, to give their suggestions, to give their insights is something that every librarian probably is doing, but should be doing if they're not doing. I think it's one of those things that having a people library makes your job easier. If you know, with Tales and Tales coming up on the summer reading program, you probably know people, or you are patrons who have exotic animals that they are trained exotic animals, I want to add, who can bring them in and show them to the kids, or who can attend virtually your story time program. You know, those are things that I think that that a people library will help you access more than going on the internet and Googling, looking for performers and you know, and things like, and storytellers and things like that. Sometimes they're right in front of you, or there's people you know. And I think it would be really good, you know, for you guys to develop that people library. And also in chat, I put the survey. Please fill this out because, as you all know from virtual programming, you need feedback in order to know how well you're doing. And we would really appreciate it. It makes our jobs a little bit more easier to help describe to people who may not know what we're doing. And Merry Christmas and season's greetings. And if you need any more information, you can always contact me. I'm going to put my cell phone number in the chat because I don't feel like giving the world my cell phone number. But this is my email, and there's Sarah's telephone number and email. I do check my phone at work, but that's at work and I'm at home. So it might take me a little bit of a memory jog to remember those things. Okay, I'm going to go back one because I think it's cute. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, and that is our final session. We still got a few minutes. I hope that everything is going well with you guys, and I really know that you're doing excellent work out there in a hard time. As you know, the governor and the country is still under the pandemic, even with the vaccine coming. I don't know where librarians are on that vaccine list, but I hope it's really up in the top 25%. But, you know, one of the things that I would like to restate that I've stated before is the children don't stop developing just because there's a pandemic. They don't go into a deep freeze. Their brains are developing. Parents have their kids at home. They're trying to, you know, they're looking for any help they can with their children's education. And you've already, if you've been paying attention to the news and out there, is that there's a very big concern that this generation of children are going to have a lot of learning problems in the years ahead. And the library is well positioned to help lessen those problems. And through your story times, it's one way of doing that. You are the experts that people will come in and ask because you're a librarian. You know, even if you're a library aide, let's, you know, we're all going to be called upon to provide reliable information. And I hope you guys recall these skills when a parent comes up and says, how do I help my child with their reading? And you have these skills to rely on. I also encourage you guys, when you get the chance, to tell your staff that these sessions have been recorded and they are up on the Nevada State Library website. I'm going to try to get you guys the URL so that you can pass it along to them so that they can view these lessons and this information. And if, you know, they need to contact me or Sarah, you know, they can do that and we can help them with any questions that they may have, because we are people libraries and we're your people libraries. Consider us your first book in your library. Okay, anyone have any, Sarah, you have anything to add?
I just wanted to remind people that, yeah, like Bruce said, you know, we all have a concern about making sure that children continue to develop, those especially who are, you know, not able to go to school and are not able to go to their normal activities. Vroom is a great way to help parents keep that going at home, and something that you can use yourself as well. I'm happy to provide free Vroom materials for your curbside pickups or any other things that you might be sending home. If you have story time materials that you're sending home, I can offer you free Vroom stuff to go in there and add on. And I can also train people or lead you to some other resources that will help you understand Vroom better and how it can help promote those skills, including the literacy skills that you've been talking about. So I think it's a great tool. Children's Cabinet has a significant amount of grant funding to support the effort. So it's a wonderful thing to be available during the pandemic, although that's not what it was designed for. So I'm here as a resource for you. Please reach out to me if you need to.
And if you just click on that link there, it should take you to a list of all these sessions, and you might want to bookmark it or something like that. And I'm putting in my cell phone number. And that's my cell phone number underneath. And so if you know, that's the best way to get in touch with me quick. I will answer my cell phone, or at least I'll let it go to voicemail and then check it and then call you back, because we're all getting our lifetime car warranties extended or something. So other than that, you guys have been awesome. Thank you for attending these things, and we will look forward to maybe doing more of these kind of programmings in the future. We don't know what the future is going to bring, but hopefully it'll be a better one than it's been the last couple of months. I hope you're all staying safe, and I hope that this change in our profession is one that you can embrace. We are always going, I think virtual programming is going to be a mainstay of all libraries. And you know, and you guys have really done well in this crisis. You put out some very good story times. I've seen them, and the public has seen them, and some of them may go viral one day, like this session will. And you know, but the thing is, you get better at it the more you do it. And everyone, please have a happy holidays and a safe one at that. And you know, follow the governor's rules. Not that I don't like the governor, I just don't like rules right now. And you know, and do stay safe. If there's anything you need to ask or anything you want to add, please do so now. I am stopping recording, by the way, so you can do this